So here we are. We're at one of the final steps in the mixing process and probably one of the most important steps in the mix that has to be correct, the lead vocal track. In this video, I'm going to take you through how I processed and balanced the lead vocal for this particular song. Let's start now by showing you some of the processing that I'm using on this song. It's pretty intense because of the character and spaciousness of this song. Going to start by playing the lead vocal with no processing and no effects on it at all.
Wondrous word whispered, sounding makes it.
So there you have it. Sounds like it was recorded in a small room. There is some low-end rumbling, like he hit the mic stand a few times. So let's go through it, and I'll show you what processing I did on this lead vocal track. And keep in mind, I was going for a very spatial, effecty sound. First thing up is the Manley Massive Passive Stereo Tube EQ. This is a very unique equalizer that each band provides a really wide range of overlapping and interleaving frequency choices. So keep in mind, even if you're looking at a frequency and boosting or cutting it, it could be really overlapping and not be what you're really viewing as a frequency.
Wondrous word whispered, sounding makes it so, cleaving, cleansing sky.
So, it does make a difference, and as you can see right here, I'm adding about 5 dB boost of a bell curve with a frequency at 3K. But since these are overlapping frequencies and the bandwidth is kind of wide, so really does not sound like 3K. It's more close to 8 or 9K. And on the upper mid-range band, I got a boost in a bell curve, but it's at 220 hertz with a really wide Q. So talk about overlapping frequencies. There you go. Now on the low mid band, I'm boosting, but a shelf at 1.2K with a moderate Q. Going to over-exaggerate it and play it a little.
Wondrous word whispered, sounding makes it so.
You see there, so even though it's at 1.2K and I'm boosting it, it sounds like a lower mid frequency because of the shelf boost and the wide Q. So it's really overlapping pretty far down to the low mids. And I also have a high-pass filter set at about 60. This equalizer can be used in series as an 8-band to give you even more flexibility. Next one in the insert chain is the Mac DSP de-esser. This is a very versatile de-esser with a lot of adjustments on it. And I am a stickler for sibilance in vocals and can't stand it. So let's check out what I'm doing with this one.
Wondrous word whispered.
De-esser in.
Wondrous word whispered.
And you can see here it's set to about 8K frequency, and there's a listen button, so you can tune in the sibilance. Let's listen to that. Kind of hard to hear, but it's a great tool to zero in on the sibilance. There's also a high-frequency switch, so the de-esser almost puts a high-pass filter in, so it'll only affect the high end of the sound. There's a range button of how deep you want the essing, and a ratio button like a compressor. This song tends to have a lot of sibilants and S's in the lyrical content. So believe it or not, I'm using 2 de-essers, but tuned at a little different frequency. Let's bring up the next one, which is the Universal Audio Precision de-esser. And this one is set to about 6.5K. Let's listen to what this one is doing.
Wondrous word whispered, sounding.
And you can see this one's taking it down, the sibilance, about 10 dB at a little bit different frequency range, but all of these de-essers act a little different.
Wondrous word, whisper.
And I'm sure all the lead vocalists are cringing right now, but I can't emphasize enough, you have to be super careful with how much de-essing you're giving the vocal because it'll sound like they're lisping. Next up is a BBE sonic maximizer to give the vocal a little bit of air right here. Now, this is not an equalizer, it's a harmonic enhancer. Just a little touch, 1 or 2 dB. I'm a big fan of harmonic enhancers. Let's play it and see what this is doing.
Wondrous word.
Let me exaggerate it a lot so we can hear it.
Sounding makes it so. Cleaving, cleansing sky.
You can hear how it really brings out the air in the upper harmonic in the vocal. And just a touch, it's sort of like the old Aphex Oral Exciter. The next one up in the chain is a special effect I put on just for this song. I stumbled upon this old Aphex analog phaser, which does a very cool phasing effect and pans slightly left and right, in and out. And you can see here how the meters on the vocal track are stereo, but it's a mono waveform. It became stereo when inserting this Eventide phase shifter. Check it out.
Wondrous word, whispered. Sounding makes it so. Cleaving, cleansing sky.
I love this effect. It pans a little bit left to right, does have a center image, and you can vary the depth of it. I haven't found this sound in any other plugin that I have, and I have many. Let's move on to the multiband compressor. This is a multiband compressor by Mac DSP, and it's a 4-band multiband compression with EQ available. Let's check it out.
Wondrous word, whispered. Sounding makes it.
So if you notice the high band, it's catching some of the S's. So really have 3 de-essers on this vocal. Let's listen. Kind of hard to hear in this demonstration, but the low mid band, I'm taking out this.
Wondrous word.
Right here when this is the gain reduction.
Sounding makes it so.
So you can hear how it's splitting up the different frequency ranges. And a multiband compressor is really a collection of several individual compressors, strapped all together as a single unit, and you can divide up the frequency ranges. So I'm using it in the lower mid frequency range and in the upper end, almost like another de-esser. Lastly in the chain, the unbelievable LA2A compressor from Teletronics. This is the #1 go-to compressor for lead vocals. Take a listen to this.
Wondrous word, whispered. Sounding makes it so.
Somewhere around 2 to 3 dB of reduction, but if I move up in the waveform, it'll be more.
But who can bear a likeness to me?
So this now brings me to clip gain, one of the most powerful tools ever implemented into Pro Tools if you have 10 and above. Put as simply as possible, this is a second level of volume automation for audio clips, and it's one that isn't tied to a track but is instead part of the clip itself. And clip gain is a pre-insert, so when you change the level of a clip, it will affect how it hits the plugins. It can be adjusted in 2 ways. One, on the bottom left corner of the clip region, as you see here, or by a clip gain line. To view that would be Shift-Control-, which would bring up a clip gain line, as you see here. And you can go in and use dot automation or block automation like we used to. As you see I'm doing now, I can put little dots in and change the level of the actual waveform from the disc. And since it's pre-insert, it will affect the level to the plugins. So I will go through a track and visually first kind of level the clip gain waveforms out, move forward, bring, say, this one down a little because this one would hit a compressor harder. And my goal is to keep the waveform hitting the compressor pretty much in a linear fashion. Then I usually switch back to normal volume automation view and do my rides. But I do flip-flop back and forth and zoom in sometimes on the clip gain waveform to find certain artifacts and things I want to remove. So let's go back to regular volume automation view, and you can see the rides I have in here that I did previously. Now these will not affect the level to the compressors or the inserts because these are post. I'll play a little bit of it now, bring up a compressor, and show you it should be pretty even.
Whispered, sounding.
Let's switch back to the compressor view so we can see how the waveform's hitting it.
Wondrous word, whispered, sounding.
Now for demonstration purposes, I'm going to really bring up a clip gain and show you how it affects the compressor, that it is pre-insert. Let's bring this piece up and see what happens.
Whispered, sounding.
So looking at the VU meter there, you can see this increase in gain of the clip will hit the compression harder since it's pre-insert. And I will go back to regular volume automation, do my rides, and then flip back to clip gain and do some maybe really fine adjustments.
Wondrous word, whispered, sounding.
And you can see now how it's pretty even. Let's go to a louder section.
Treasure of earthly issue, structure of space and time.
You can see how clip gain is a really powerful tool. So, get it pretty even with clip gain. Then I switch back to volume mode and do my rides. And if I find a S or a little P-pop, it really works well to go into clip gain and get that out. Let's move on to the vocal effects I have on this song, and they're pretty extensive due to the style of the song. The first one I want to go to is this long delay send. I use this for vocal spins or trail off effects. And let's show the automation line, and you can see where I'm using it. Right here are two vocal sends to the long delay return. Check this out in the track.
Ooh, of the day.
So that echo send is being sent to this stereo return, long delay, that has this insert on it, the Soundtoys Echo Boy plugin. And it's set to dual delay, about a half note, a little bit of feedback, and then that is going to this equalizer, which I'm carving out some low end, adding a little bit of upper mids and taking out some high end, just to give the effect a little clarity so it's not cloudy in the track. Then it's getting sent to a little reverb. So remember, important, the inserts are in order of signal flow. Makes a huge difference. So here's the automated sends.
Of the day.
I did one more on the track.
Breathing a soul into clay.
You can hear how that lasts. So those are echo throws on that. Moving on to the next send effect would be right here. I labeled it vocal double. And what it's doing is giving it a little stereo image to the mono vocal. And that send is going to this return labeled pitch that is the brilliant Eventide H3000 harmonizer. The setting I'm using on this is a little bit of tight delay on the left side, which is around 45 milliseconds, and the right side, which is about 25. A little pitch up 6 cents on one side, and a little bit of a pitch down on the right side, minus 6 cents. Gives the vocal a little stereo image and a tiny bit of chorusing, just to thicken it up a little. And that's being sent from this vocal double send. And I'll view the automation line. I have not written any automation on this send. Let's see what it sounds like in and out.
Wondrous word whispered, sounding makes it so.
I obviously exaggerated it for demonstration purposes, but you can see how it just fills up the left and right image and gives it a little bit of sparkle. The next effect send would be just a little bit of EMT plate that I'm not even using in this song. I only have a little bit of stereo ping pong delay. Let's listen to that.
Wondrous word whisper.
Now that send is being sent to this stereo return marked delay, and that also is a Soundtoys plugin, Echo Boy, 250 milliseconds on one side, 250 on the other side, but it's a ping pong delay that's moving left and right. One of my favorite effects to use since it doesn't cloud up the center image, it's left and right. I also use that effect a lot on guitars and background vocals. Now I want to move on and deactivate all the sends and all the inserts and show you what it sounds like turning them on one by one in the track.
Wondrous word whisper, sounding makes it so. Cleaving, cleansing sky from a bright treasure of earthly issue, structure of space and time.
You can see it's a major difference. I am adding gain structure, so that's why the level's coming up and down. And again, this song is heavily affected just because of the nature of the song. Balancing the lead vocal against the instruments is a crucial part of a well-mixed track. And the manner of how you do this, of course, depends on the type of song and the quality of how the vocal was recorded. The vocal is, everything to the success of a song. You have to make it loud enough to hear their lyrics, but the problem is, if the vocal is too loud, you lose all the power and energy of the track and it can disappear. If the vocal's too low, you can't understand what's being said. Now, I didn't go into the balancing of the lead vocal in this video segment because it is a lot of personal preference how the artist wants it mixed. One technique that I use to check lead vocal balances and solo balances is I will bring the volume down to where you can barely hear it, and the loudest thing in the mix will be what is audible. If you only hear the vocal and the band is not there, then the vocal probably has to come down. The vocal level has to be correct for an overall balance of the entire mix. Experiment, have some fun, take a break, listen to some CDs that you like the sound of, and A/B the vocal levels with what you're doing. Just by following a couple of these little suggestions, I'm sure you will come out with an outstanding sounding mix in the end.